Honorable Men Discord. Let's talk Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo BAFTA Awards. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So let's go straight to it. What I have beside me is a clip from the BAFTA Awards, which is the British Academy Film Awards. And it's the 79th Annual British Academy Film Awards. And presenting was Michael B. Jordan along with Delroy Lindo. You might know them both from their appearances in the recent blockbuster success of last year, Sinners. But I know Delroy Lindo from his great acting in Spike Lee's Malcolm X movie, headlining, well, I should say starring Denzel Washington. But with that being said, you have these brothers, distinguished brothers. Delroy Lindo, I believe, is 73 years old and well respected. I recently saw a video where he, along with Denzel Washington, were talking about how they met in acting, how they started in acting, and how they met in Hollywood. I want to say it was in Hollywood. I might, if I'm mistaken on that, please forgive me, but they have a friendship, a long-lasting friendship, and I sat there and watched it, and it was a pleasure listening to those stories that they both shared. Now, you see Mr. Lindo in a tuxedo, and the side of him is Michael B. Jordan doing what they do best, which is exemplify what it is to be honorable, upstanding example of a black man. And unfortunately for them, they were embarrassed by the racial slur that took place during the award ceremony. Now, I'm going to go into that racial slur in a moment, but I'm going to first play the video so we get some insight as to what this episode is about.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here to celebrate.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here.
All right, so the gentleman that shouted out the N-word has Tourette's, and apparently he was in attendance because there was a film that that he was there for that acknowledged him. There was a film about him. I think the film was called I Swear, right? But I will look into that. So there was a film that had to do with him, and he was in attendance, and apparently they had let the audience know that he was in attendance, and they let the audience know about his condition. But for some reason, when Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo went up to present, it was at that moment that he blurted out the N-word. So when you look into this, you'll notice that there are some people who are siding with the gentleman and saying, you don't know what it's like to live with Tourette's. They don't have much control over it, which I understand that aspect of it, but it wasn't as though he was saying the N-word prior to them getting on stage and presenting. Had he been saying it all the way throughout, then I could understand. But he was not saying that all the way throughout. Apparently they said he said it particularly when they were on the stage. So that's one thing to consider. The other thing to consider is I read that Delroy mentioned that the BBC, or I should say the BAFTA, they never approached Michael B. Jordan or Delroy after the fact to even apologize or even just to address it, to see how they were feeling. Because Michael B. Jordan, if you noticed when I played this clip, he was embarrassed by it. And the reaction that Michael B. Jordan had was one of those reactions of a person who you've made it, and yet ever so often there's that constant reminder that no matter how successful you are, no matter how praised you are for what you do, your talent, there's always a constant reminder at some point in time that, listen, this is how we really see you. Now, whether it was intentional or not, that hurt. I can tell from looking at this video that Michael B. Jordan was hurt. Delroy is more seasoned. He's been acting for many years. And at 73, Delroy's probably heard it all. Delroy's probably not surprised by it, but it doesn't make it any easier. I think for Delroy, and I'm only assuming, I'm only assuming here. I could assume that Delroy, for someone at Delroy's age, he's probably looking at this like it just never stops. It's one of those weary things that you experience as a black man where no matter how old you get, there's going to always be a moment where someone shows their true colors, and it's not a favorable example of how they see you. It's always one to just degrade you. Doesn't matter what tuxedo you put on, what type of tuxedo you put on, how shiny your shoes are, how polished your haircut is, how good you smell with the latest fragrance. There's always going to be a moment. And I'm not saying that to promote any type of division in this world. I don't say that to promote division. I'm never here to promote division. But this is just a reality. Now, some of us could act like it doesn't happen. But unfortunately, this is not the first time I've seen some type of thing like this. Whether it's an interview where the interviewer is patronizing the guest based on the fact that they're black. Or examples like this. Or it's newspaper spreads, the cover of newspapers. I've seen this so many times, I just never jotted down to keep track of the times that I've seen it. But I've seen it many times in my lifetime. And I'm not Delroy Lindo's age. So I can only imagine how he felt having to hear that. Then there's another thing to consider. Apparently, the BBC, they didn't pull this thing off of the air after it was pre-recorded. They left it up there. They didn't correct this. They didn't bleep it out. They left it as is. The same way I played it for you all, it was left this way. So where's the respect for these distinguished actors? These well-respected actors? Where's the respect for them? And this is happening not in the United States. That's another thing to consider. The amount of things that these two gentlemen have experienced in their lifetime in the United States, and then to go to London as humble guests, as revered guests, as respected guests, and then you get disrespected, whether intentionally or not. I'm not even putting all the onus on the gentleman with Tourette's. I haven't even dived in on what I think about that, because I'm not that educated in people with Tourette's. So I'm not here to blame him, because I know it's a illness, right? But there still needs some explaining. This calls for an explanation. This calls for an explanation why, when they stood up, that was said. And I again, before I put this episode together, I was looking at people's reactions, different comments, and some people were defending the gentleman and like, oh, you don't understand what it is to have Tourette's. Oddly enough, the people that are saying that, I don't know if they're experts in that field, or they're just speaking for someone with Tourette's and they do not have Tourette's themselves. I think it would carry more weight, it would have more value if the people who were speaking on, or the people who were defending and trying to tell the world you don't know what it's like to have Tourette's, it would carry more weight if they themselves actually have Tourette's. And I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm completely serious with this episode. But like Mr. Lindo said, they never were approached at the end of the event by anyone from BAFTA. And I think that in itself is disrespectful. If I were the both of them, I would not go back to BAFTA. after this. This is a one and done. And it's not, again, this is not because of the guy with the Tourette's, but this is about BAFTA. The respectable thing to do would have been when there was an opportunity to check on them and say, are you okay? We apologize about that outburst. Even though it wasn't BAFTA's fault, because they can't control someone who has Tourette's. They can't control what they say. But it's the classy thing to do. Then you have to ask yourself, had they not been black, if it was a different scenario, and I've seen other people bring this up also, if it was a different scenario and it was something that was derogatory that was said about maybe a Jewish presenter, how would BAFTA have handled that? Would they have been more swift? Would they have said something to them after the fact? Would they have said it live on air? Would someone have come out and said something in real time? But no, these two gentlemen had to stand there and in a split second make a classy decision. And that classy decision was to continue without being disrespectful or disruptive and make it about them. I have two other things to play, but I just want you really to let this topic soak in, and I hope I'm delivering it right, because it's off the cuff as it always is. But one thing I'll say about black people, we have mastered enduring. We have mastered overcoming, but we've definitely mastered enduring. And it's sad to watch, because neither Michael B. Jordan or Lindo himself were slaves, yet we carry that same grit and thick skin as the slaves did. And you might be saying, oh, where are you going with this? Why are you making this about slaves? I'm not making this about slaves. I'm making this about the innate ability that black men have, black women also, black people, to endure. Had Michael B. Jordan and Lindo did anything outside of what they did, which was continue, take a deep breath, continue, as gentlemen, as men in formal attire, had they did anything outside of what they did, they would have been scrutinized. But there's no applause, there's no standing ovation, there's no pat on the back, there's no apology given to such class acts. But I'll tell you one thing, history is showing if they would have did anything outside of what they did, they would have been attacked and ridiculed for it. How dare you say what you said to that man? He has a syndrome. You guys know better. They might have even been blacklisted. And yes, I do want to hear from you guys in the comment section about this. Let me just go into the other things I have queued up. Right now I have Godfrey. You know, I love hearing from Godfrey because he's very passionate. Great comedian, but very passionate when it comes to matters involving black people. So I commend him for being outspoken. Let's get into Godfrey.
I'm looking at this video with Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo at the BAFTA Awards. And you know Michael B. and Delroy, Sinners is probably going to win Best Picture. It's going to probably win a bunch of Oscars. I'm crossing my fingers. But they're just doing great work, just dignified brothers killing it right now. And something happens while they're up there. Two words are uttered out.
For a vital part of movie making.
Yeah, bitch nigga. And it is said by a guy named John Davidson. I think he's part of the awards ceremony. I think he might be a producer or whatever. He says, but he has Tourette's. I don't know if you know Tourette's. I follow people online that have Tourette's where they get these tics, you know, like verbal tics where they be like, yeah. A lot of times it's profanity or whatever, or sometimes like sounds and stuff like that. And it's really a really terrible disease, you know. But I had to scratch my chin on this one, because how did he say when Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan were up there? I can understand if he's like, but. So my thing is this, and I'm trying to use my logic. I'm not trying to put people down with this, but why was it specifically? It makes me rub my chin going, was he really thinking this? Is Is there a thought process in a person with Tourette's? They have these thoughts, and that disease brings it out, but does it in sporadic moments? I don't know. I'm trying to be very logical with this. Really in the middle of, I don't have Tourette's. I don't know what it's like. I don't know if you're it makes you talk and make outbursts, whether you, even if you try to suppress it. I don't know, but that was crazy. And they say they should give him a pass on it. Not a pass. We need an apology. You need an apology for that. That was fucking crazy. Is that what he was really thinking? But Tourette's, makes you say it out loud in your brain? Because this is all brain cerebral shit. I'm just saying. Now, what if there was a Jewish man up there and he said some crazy Jew? What would happen then? What if there was an Asian and he said you slanted? I don't know. Is this what they're really thinking? It's like when people get dementia. When you'll see these old white people get dementia and their caretakers are black, but they always end up calling them and all this. They don't forget that. They forget their family. They forget memories from the past, but they always remember to say to them. Always never forget the race. That's one thing. Dementia, for some reason, never makes them forget the race. So I just want to know, and this is me not putting people down for Tourette's. I want to make sure I'm being very clear with this. I just thought specifically that was very, 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 very curious. Really, when the black people come up on stage, okay? I just thought that was very, very, very interesting. You guys let me know. So I'm looking.
All right, let me go to this last thing I've queued up.
The guy at the BAFTA Awards, you got Delroy Lindo and Michael Jordan are up there, right? And they're presenting, and a guy with Tourette's in the audience makes outbursts, including the N-word. Now, how do you it's a white guy, by the way, not a black guy who blurted out the N-word. It was a white guy. Now, the idea that this is racist and a disease doesn't make you say racist things, that's not what the Tourette's people say. What is your take on this?
I have a lot of questions. If this was the first thing on the top of this man's mouth when two black people were speaking, it does cause some concern, definitely. But he has a syndrome. He has Tourette's syndrome. So it's very hard for me to pearl clutch in this situation because I don't know exactly what triggers what in the mind. But from a objective standpoint, I mean, it's terrible to hear. No one wants to be called that. No one wants to hear anyone else call that. And kudos to those two actors, some of the best in the game, for standing there and really just taking it, being true professionals. And of course, I'm sure there'll be accountability or answers in the situation because I don't know how something like this happens.
That was exactly my thoughts. But what is your thoughts on all of this? As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Salute to Michael B. Jordan. Salute to Delroy Lindo. Continue to be a light to show other black men that we don't have to be the negative versions of ourselves. We can be positive versions. And this is not just about in acting in all fields. This is not about acting. This is not about being a music artist. This is about exemplifying greatness in the way we carry ourselves, the way we conduct ourselves. There's always options out there outside of being ignorant. I know for some of you watching this episode, you may have looked at this and you might have said to yourself, if I was up there, I would have handled it this way. We don't always have to be aggressive in the way we approach things. There's other ways. And by no means is this a loss by the way they handled it. This is just show that they're mature and they'll deal with it the way they need to deal with it at the right time. But the right time wasn't then during the presentation. And especially when it's something sensitive pertaining to someone who has a syndrome. All right, but that's my thoughts on this. What is your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you all. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, stay honorable.